Hello everyone, welcome to the Circuit Ricardo Tormo here in Valencia for Coppa Shell qualifying 2 for Ferrari Challenge round 1 of 2023. Here we are then, having got the first race in the book yesterday. It's all about what we can do, or really rather what the drivers can do for qualifying today to give themselves the best possible grid position for the race to come this afternoon. This is where we are. Please follow us on @Ferrari Races, Valencia in Spain, round 1 of our Ferrari Challenge for 2023. We split Coppa Shell due to sheer numbers and sheer volume of cars. We split Coppa Shell qualifying into 2 segments. The first segment will be our Shell drivers. Those are the drivers with the yellow sunstrip across the top of the windscreen, and then it will be the Shell AM drivers, the black sunstrip across the top of the windscreen, that will be taking part in the second iteration, if you will, of our qualifying. Air temperature 23 degrees, track temperature 21 degrees. It's a little bit windier than yesterday, still nothing to speak of really, 13 kilometers per hour. As you can see, what I think are oranges growing. Nico is more of a horticulturalist than I am, and he is alongside me. He will explain as to exactly what that vegetation was. Let's go down into the pit lane, because another huge part of the talent team is Ludovica. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to everyone. We're back on track at Valencia circuit. As you can see, everything is ready for the second qualifying session of Coppa Shell and Coppa Shell AM. Yesterday was a very good and competitive day for all the drivers, where in Coppa Shell, Axel Stinger took a pole and won the race 1, while in Coppa Shell AM, Boris Guidon took a pole, and Paolo Scudieri won the race 2, and this is his first victory in his career. So the questions for today and in this morning is, who will be today's poleman?
Indeed, who will be P1 on the grid? That is the question that is upon everyone's lips. If you're just joining us for qualifying, welcome, hello. Great to have you with us as we look at the car of Alexander Nussbaumer, hugely successful driver. He was the Coppa Shell AM champion last year and gets elevated into Coppa Shell this year for Gomes Scuderia GT. There indeed is Alexander Nussbaumer. And there we can see the really rather resplendent car of John Dillon, who's sporting a very, very nice colour scheme for this year. John Dillon, very experienced driver for Grey Paul Nottingham, has raced not only in the European Series but in the UK Series as well, and a very talented driver. Von Skeltermar is one of the longest-serving members of the Ferrari Challenge grid and was awarded with a long service award last year at the Finale Mondiale, and it's great to see him back again with the familiar shark's teeth across the front of his crash helmet and also the front of his car, and very nearly anything else that belongs to Von Skeltermar, it has to be said. The cars are champing at the bit to get out there as we look at the Christian Herdwieper Emil Frey entered car. Now, I spoke to Christian Herdwieper earlier on today, and he was very disappointed with performance yesterday in testing. He'd found significantly more time, and he said, I just cannot get my head together at the moment, Dave. I don't know what it is. He said maybe too much stress, maybe too many other things impacting and affecting my thinking process, and I'm just not where I need to be in terms of pace. So obviously Christian Herdwieper, there is more to come from him. So we set a task to my talented colleague alongside me, Nico. What was growing on the tree? Was it an orange?
Possibly, or a tangerine, or something else. I'm not sure that you should really trust me with anything botanic.
Okay.
Or anything else for that matter. But
okay.
Here we are qualifying for Coppa Shell, just 30 seconds away, and it's Thomas Gostner heading the queue. There is Manuela Gostner's 488 Challenge Evo, and there is yesterday's race winner, Axel Sartingen, who took the pole, took the race win, took perfect point score because he also got the fastest lap. And he was talking about the tires yesterday. He did a brilliant job in qualifying, really only put in one hot lap. That was perfect. Came in, preserved the Pirelli P0 tires as much as possible, and then went onto a race where he also tried to preserve the tires. There was a safety car during the race, and that kind of helped everybody keep the tire longevity intact. But here we go for qualifying session. The reason everybody's coming out very early is generally that they're using yesterday's rubber to get everything, get themselves into the rhythm, get the final car setup intact, then everybody will come back in, change to a brand new set of Pirelli P0s, and then the chase for the final few tenths and seconds will be on.
To the rhythm, to the rhythm. Right.
To the bridge, to the bridge, to the bridge.
We are on, and as you can see, it's a Gostner family affair at the front of the pack with Thomas and Corinna and Manuela. Before we see the rest of the cars making their way out onto the grid, there is the John Dillon car. So we have a packed grid of Coppa Shell drivers, that's for sure. Thomas Gostner then making way and allowing other drivers to go through. Manuela Gostner then is... there's a bit of smoke coming off the back of Thomas Gostner's car, Nico. You're well picked up there.
I'm not sure if that's intentional. It certainly doesn't look normal.
I wouldn't have said so.
No, and that's not a good sign. Well, we'll keep an eye on that as we see the Alexander Nussbaumer car go by, which for me still confusingly is last year's Franz Engstler car. So he is champion, was elevated, and is now racing in last year's championship car in Coppa Shell. But so keeping...
Trust me, dear viewer, there's many things that confuse both Nico and I, and we don't need a lot of help in that direction, do we? So John Dillon there, you can see weaving behind Axel Sardigan, champing at the bit to get going. Axel Sardigan then, as Nico alluded to, did a perfect job yesterday. Basically, he went out, blitzed the lap, came in, parked it up, and that gave him really good Pirelli for the race to come. We've got a yellow flag at turn number 7, which I can only assume is for the parked up Thomas Gostner car. And sure enough, there it is.
And then we've got a red flag already, and probably the earliest red flag we've seen in a qualifying session.
Not even one lap completed, I wouldn't have said.
Yeah, now, obviously it makes sense to throw out the red flag, because with the car there, nobody can set a meaningful lap time. And to let 12 minutes or the 20 or whatever tick down without nobody really having a chance to do anything would not make sense. So sensible decision. I don't think this recovery will take very long, and oh, tough luck for Thomas. Didn't have the greatest of races yesterday, but hopefully there is just something, some wire which came off or whatever, and he will be able to certainly take part in the race. But this gives us a nice opportunity to go back down into pit lane potentially for Ludovica to give us some more insights, which only she can give us.
Yes, a little update. There is a red flag because the car 161 Gostner have took a little fire for a mechanical problem maybe. So update you for news and other things.
Thank you, Ludovica. News flash brought to you live from the pit lane, and there we have it. So potentially a small fire in the back of the Thomas Gostner car. Look at this. Team principal Frank Herter actually on the wheel gun today on the Christian Kinch car. Not unusual sight, but there you can see Christian Kinch. Then he's probably done an installation lap on the old rubber from yesterday, and now he's got brand new rubber on. So he'll be hoping that he'll be one of the first drivers to queue up to get back out again and to set a meaningful lap time. Here we can see there are lots of spectators that have joined us here at Circuit Ricardo Tormo for our qualifying program. And there is the 198 car of Eric Chung, Formula Racing driver, and he was going about his personal training before getting into the car and actually tried to throw me the ball he was using, and in the end he didn't throw it, which is probably just as well, because Butterfingers here would have dropped it without a question. So this gives us an opportunity to take a look at some of the images in the pit lane, including that of the Emil Frey driver Christian Herd-Wieper, who I have to say was one of the stars of last year, and we'll be hoping to replicate that form during the course of the 2023 season. Lots of guests here as well this weekend, which is always nice to see. And one of our colleagues, Michele Mambelli, taking and escorting people on various tours of the paddock, which is lovely to see. So there is the von Skeltermar car, and we have the information that the session is going to restart in just about a minute's time.
Yeah, we could just see from our commentary window that they were able to push the Thomas Gostner car behind the arm codes, and therefore the track is safe, and we're ready to go back qualifying in, well, 40 seconds from now. So Corinna Gostner.
In the meantime, let's take a look at the highlights of yesterday's race. And our production team really scraping the barrel in terms of finding the music bed to accompany that highlight sequence from the race yesterday as we go back to green. And the qualifying session is back underway. A momentary pause for the recovery of the Thomas Gostner car. And whatever the issue was with the Thomas Gostner car, the team have got precisely 16.5 minutes to try and find a solution and a fix to that and get him back out again for qualifying, which I think is probably going to be a big ask. This is Peter Christensen in the number 121 car for Formula Racing. Peter Christensen, very talented driver and committing to the season of Ferrari Challenge in Europe once again this year. And good to see Peter Christensen. Also, welcome return to the driver of car number 117 for Kroijmans Race Art, and that's Roger Grols that we can see there. Not expecting any meaningful lap times to come in the next couple of minutes or so, because the drivers are effectively reinstalling their cars on the tarmac before going for it once again and trying to find track space and also trying to find the optimum lap around this 4-kilometer circuit, which features some 14 turns. 9 of them are left-handers, 5 of them are right-handers, and it's a pretty technical circuit as well. See the John Dillon car getting a little bit shaky going into that. You take so much speed out in turn 14 and dive into the left-hander. And John Dillon will be going for a timed lap now. It's a busy, busy track. Lots of cars out there on track for this qualifying session now, of which it's a short, sharp burst of qualifying, Nico, to be honest, because there's only going to be 15 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, exactly. The fact that we're splitting Coppa Shell and Coppa Shell AM into 2 different sessions means there is potentially less traffic on the track. But the trade-off is that it's 10 minutes less for the session, and therefore we're already into 15-minute territory. There is Willem van der Waal, who used to sport a very red traditional livery. Now the day-glow blue metallic yellow really looks good and dare I say a little bit more adventurous, daring, cunning, and certainly apt for his driving style. He is a controlled but very, very quick driver. Had a fantastic year 2 years ago.
Yes.
Last year, a little bit of a mixed bag. Now this year, he wants to set on and get on with his progression in terms of his racecraft. And yesterday wasn't the perfect start for him, but he has had success here in Valencia previously, and is going to look to replicate exactly that.
So we're watching John Dillon at the moment. I am noticing on the timing screen that already a couple of drivers being warned with regards to track limits through Sector 1. That may play into shaping the story of qualifying, because if you get a track limits infringement during your qualifying lap, it basically means that the lap is taken away. As John Dillon, as I predicted, gives us our first meaningful lap time, a 1:38.789. Then it's Alexander Nussbaumer with a 1:40.7, and then Ingvar Madsen and Corinna Gostner. those are the 4 official times that we have up there on screen at the moment. This is Christian Kinch returning to racing. And good to see Christian back out in the car again for Gome and Herta Racing. And we know that he's running new Pirelli rubber on that car because we saw the car in the pit lane with the rubber being installed by team principal Frank Herta. So Christian Kinch has got fresh rubber underneath him. Target time of 1:38.789 is a ways off that, but nonetheless it's P3 for the moment. But Christian will be going again as we go back to Ludovica, who I understand is alongside the Thomas Gostner car.
Yes, I am here out of the box of Gostner, and I speak with the team, and they told me that the red flag was for technical problem, for a mechanic problem, and now, as can you see, all the team is trying to adjust the problem for back on the track as soon.
Team principal Massimo Pepe, who's very, very hands-on, and he'll have his hands right in the mix there, Nico, trying to solve whatever the issue was with the Thomas Gostner car and to try and salvage something from this qualifying session. But the man that's salvaging a lot at the moment is John Dillon, who has just gone even quicker with a 1:37.557. That's a full 3 seconds quicker than anyone else. Dare I say, there are still some drivers that we're expecting to post good times, including this man, Roger Grohl. Sector 1 was not brilliant, but Sector 2 was, and he crosses the line with a good Sector 3 and means that he goes now provisional P1 because he was 7/100ths quicker than John Dillon. So Roger Grohl, who we know is a hugely talented racer, took time off from the Ferrari Challenge to do, among other things, the Dakar. Which is an extraordinary feat of achievement, and congratulations to Roger for that. And here comes von Skeltermar also setting purple sectors. Purple sectors mean that you are the quickest of anyone in that particular sector. Put 3 purples together and lo and behold, you're going to have P1. That's the way it works. If they are purple, then it's quicker than anyone. And von Skeltermar through Sector 1 has delivered so far. What's his Sector 2 going to look like? Well, 9/100ths quicker. So von Skeltermar, who's currently P8 in terms of the order, providing he can nail the final sector and get the final turn sorted absolutely perfectly, which it looks a pretty good trajectory to me. He'll head to break the timing beam now. The back end of the car just looking a little bit loose. The Kessel Racing long-term Ferrari Challenge campaigner does go P1 with a 1:37.420, Nico.
Yeah, and just shaved a little bit more than half a tenth off, but John Dillon returns the favor and makes it a 1:37.289.
Amazing.
1:37.289. Just for reference, a 1:36.5 was the benchmark yesterday, set by Axel Sartingen. And talking about Axel Sartingen, he's in the pits and he hasn't set a time yet, and that means with 10 minutes remaining, time is getting short. Time is also getting short for us because Ludovica is going to take center stage with, I understand, Manuela Gostner.
Yes, I want to show you more emotion and experience from the grid. Now we see Manuela that just restart from the grid after a pit stop with all the team.
So new tyres going on to the Manuela Gostner car, and she will be sent out again by the MP Racing team. And I'm just looking around that, the 2 screen shot that we have there, the Thomas Gostner car is still in the pit lane. So we can see that that is still being worked on. Meantime, Manuela Gostner will be back out again. We've got 9.5 minutes remaining. Von Skeltermar is on another very, very quick lap here. Of course, he's P1 was ousted by John Dillon. Is von Skeltermar going to go back to the top of the timing screen? Let's see, here he comes. At the moment, it's looking pretty good. And once again, if he can nail turn 14, you can just see the back end of the car again, letting go a little bit. Here comes von Skeltermar, heading towards the timing beam, and he stays P2. He lost about a tenth in that 3rd sector, Nico.
Yeah, as Roger Grohl is approaching the timing line, I do think it is a good sign that they're even working on the Thomas Gostner car with that urgency, because it certainly looks like there is nothing critically wrong with the car, and there is a hope that they'll get him out in time, and certainly for the race that bodes well.
Yes.
And there is Roger Grohl who takes this final turn, which is downhill, and then it's a very narrow left kink. And there he is, full throttle, heading towards the timing line. P3 at the moment, 1:37.616. It is an improvement personally. Not even that. He stays P3, but he's going to go again. 8 minutes, 18 seconds remaining. And the one driver who is on his outlap and who is going to be a challenger is going to be Axel Sarting. And in just a few minutes, I'm sure we will see meaningful times from him. Meaningful times for the moment. Roger Grols, first sector, purple.
So John Dillon, von Skeltermar, Roger Grols, the top three at the moment, with Christian Herdvieper finding some of that form that had disappeared. He's P4, then it's Christian Kinch, Willem van der Voort, Peter Christensen, Eric Chung, Alexander Nussbaumer, Ingvar Madsen, Corinna Gosner. Meaningful times, we're still waiting for the likes of Joachim Olander, Thomas Gosner, Axel Sardigan and Manuela Gosner. And we know that Manuela's going to have fresh rubber. So Roger Grols continuing his forward-looking trajectory as he goes purple through Sector 1. And 37.486. I mean, there's less than 2/10. That's the difference between the top three drivers thus far. And you can see just how much concentration and focus there is on Roger Grols' faces. I love this split-screen shot. We have him hard at work, and how all those inputs onto the steering, how they translate into how the car behaves. We're able to bring that to you. Great shots here. Roger Grols, Sector 2, which is one of the sectors that he's not playing into his hands necessarily. As you can see, that's a grey sector, but you don't necessarily need all three sectors purple to improve. And Roger Grols, unfortunately, does not improve, and he's some 4/10 down on the target time of 1:37.289, which was set by John Dillon for Greypool, Nottingham, and great to see John back. You can see there Roger Grols talking to his engineer. Now there is the John Dillon car. I suspect John will be advised and you know, maybe to keep the car in that position, as we see von Skeltermar's partner Cyril, who celebrated her birthday yesterday. Happy birthday to you, Cyril. And my failing memory does mean that I remember that little fact. So von Skeltermar is going for it here, Nico, because Sector 1 and Sector 2, once again, he's found the time that he needs to really take this to John Dillon. He's about 1/10 and 1/3 down on John Dillon from his last timed lap, but this lap is looking better still. So von Skeltermar altogether neater, I thought, coming out of turn number 14 as he heads towards the timing lane now. And von Skeltermar does go P1, and he's took a 1/10 and 1/4 out of the John Dillon time. So a 1:37.166 for von Skeltermar. Are we going to see a sub 1:37 time? And if we are, who's it going to be that sets it? I'd put something of a bet on one Mr. Axel Sardigan, I think.
There is a chance, and von Skeltermar did take provisional pole. He lost a few tenths in the final sector, so if he goes again, there is even a chance for himself to beat his own time in that final sector. Willem van der Voort, P6 for the moment. Personal best, but already a second down, and I think he slowed down a little bit here as after overtaking Roger Grols. And I think he's going to set himself up for that lap, which is going to come in about 10 seconds time as he accelerates out of that final turn, and so does Roger Grols. Axel Sartingen has just put in a first time, which is not very meaningful yet because he's still way down the order in P12, but he is now going, and that first sector is looking like race speed. But we've seen it time and time again, 4.5 minutes and a little bit remaining as Roger Grols runs very wide, and I think that will be looked at. As Manuel Agosta puts in a purple first sector, very, very good. But you know, it's very perilous position because you only need one driver to go out into the gravel, a red flag, and then your quality session is royally ruined. We hope it doesn't happen. So
at the moment, there's been quite a fight going on between von Skeltermar and John Dillon. For the moment, John Dillon has been advantaged by von Skeltermar, who's a 1/10 and a bit quicker. Alongside the John Dillon car is Ludovica.
Yes, Dave, John Dillon is the fastest now on the track. So what about, more about the qualifying of John Dillon?
No, he's done an amazing job. Been working all weekend up to this. John's qualifying didn't go fantastically yesterday due to traffic. He absolutely nailed it this morning, did the perfect lap. He's in good shape, he's driving well, and we're super confident for the race.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Matt Griffin, top racing driver is Matt Griffin. He and a bad co-commentator as well, and he's joined me on the air on many occasions. Now, of course, John Dillon has just been beaten by von Skeltermaar, who in turn gets beaten by Manuela Gostner, who does give us a sub 137 time. It's a 136.304. Well done to Manuela. We could see that coming, or rather you could, Nico.
Well, the timing screen could, and we were able to follow it. Manuela Gostner 8.5 tenths quicker than von Skeltermaar. That is a statement and a half. Axel Sartingen, he is up into P5, but far away from where he was yesterday. Now, he still has time to do another lap after this one, and we still see personal improvements. Alexander Nussbaumer among them, Willem van der Worm among them. Corinna Gostner, we haven't seen Joachim Olander at all, which is troubling, and there's no reason based on yesterday's race why we shouldn't see him, but there is our provisional pole setter, Manuela Gostner, getting out of the way of Alexander Nussbaumer, who is steaming towards the timing line, trying to improve from his P10 position. And Manuela Gostner, that was a brilliant lap, even quicker than the pole lap yesterday by Axel Sartingen. And with 2 minutes remaining, there are still challengers for her pole position, and this is one of them. Roger Groves, as he's taking the turn, you can feel the rattling as he takes the curbs, throws it around the turn in this second sector. The first sector that he did, semi-impressive, half a second down, which could still be a personal improvement, but I rather think it's going to be... He's building towards the next lap, because he will have time for one more. There is the Willem van der Worm car. He also not at race pace. Will he go again, or will he put it into pit lane? I rather think he is going to give us one more attempt at taking a pole position or first row start.
Here comes Sartingen then, personal best through Sector 1 and Sector 2. He's the driver that we would have put money on being right at the sharp end, but look at the traffic he's got. He's having to thread his way through the rest of the cars, which is always disadvantageous. Now, as he rounds the final turn, if he's got clear tarmac ahead of him, relatively so, it won't be this lap that will count. It'll be the next one, I would suggest, that will be the one for Axel Sartingen, and it will be the final lap. He has gone second fastest anyway, even though he was having to navigate his way through that traffic with a 136.978. So here comes Axel now, and we stay with Axel Sartingen. We are expecting this to potentially be an improvement on the 136.978 that he delivered. This is Alexander Nussbaumer, or it was, not at race pace, and here is Manuela Gostner, who I rather think is not going to go again, and is probably going to park the car into the pit lane now with merely 30 seconds left. Don't see it personally. So the one that we need to keep an eye on is going to be Axel Sartingen, although his split times would suggest that it's not necessarily going to be an improvement from the German driver.
No, first sector is already 4 tenths down, which is good, but he's already in P2, but that's very difficult, especially with the technical second and third sectors, where you don't necessarily, as tire degradation plays a part. And we're talking about...
He's lost the back end of the car, Nico. Sorry, just as you were talking. He would have failed this lap now. I don't think there's going to be anything salvaged from this, unfortunately. And that's the problem, isn't it? You know, just one little, not error, but just pushing a little bit too hard, and that can really compromise your lap, and inevitably that's done for Axel Sartingen. Therefore, probably Manuela Gostner is going to be P1. Ludovica.
Yes, for this reason, I'm out of the box of Manuela Gostner. The team will attending here on the grid for Manuela, because the results of this qualifying is changed, and probably she is the new poleman for today. And in the meanwhile, the rest of the team is working on the car of Thomas Gostner for resolving the problem that they have at the start of this qualifying.
Thank you, Ludovica. Von Skeltermaar making his way down the pit lane. So the order is Manuela Gostner, Axel Sartingen, Von Skeltermaar, and John Dillon. That's the way the front two rows are going to look for the Shell drivers. Bear in mind, in just a few moments, we will have the Shell AM drivers out there on track. for their qualifying, Nico, and great to see some spectators here to enjoy both the races, but more importantly, the qualifying shows right now.
Yeah, absolutely, and they got a real show in Manuela Gostner. 6.5 tenths quicker than Axel Starting and then von Skeltema, John Dillon. And I mean, it's always great to see that here in the Ferrari Challenge. We don't even need to highlight the fact that we have women racing amongst the men, because they just show that they are equal in terms of pace, stature and pedigree. And Manuela Gostner once again shows that and goes to the very top of our timing screen with a dominant performance. Axel Starting in P2, he's gonna be dangerous from there. Von Skeltema equally. John Dillon, amazing qualifying, really, really good. Alexander Nussbaumer, better than yesterday. Roger Grols, not as good as yesterday. Peter Christensen, Willem van der Worm, Christian Herd-Wieper, respectable P9. I'm not sure, and we will find out later on if he's happy. Eric Chung, the returning Eric Chung, P11, Ingvar Madsen, Corinna Gostner, and then Joachim Olander we didn't see, and Thomas Gostner we only saw very briefly, and not his car in the best condition, but we do hope, based on the team's efforts, that he will be able to take part in the race later on, even though that means he'll have to start from the back of the grid. Von Skeltema having discussions, getting some congratulations, well deserved for being P3. That's where he ended yesterday's race as well. Third, and there is a slow-mo of our top drivers, and we start with von Skeltema, the Shark's teeth. Aggressive, menacing, and very, very quick. Even in slow motion it looks quick. Ingvar Madsen, the 199 car that you can see taking the turbs, taking even a little bit of grass on the inside as he attacks the corner. Trust me, this is the most photographed car in the history of the Ferrari Challenge, the Shark's teeth of von Skeltema, across many iterations of the Ferrari Challenge car. The 430, the 458, the 488, and next year it's probably going to be the 296. There is Roger Grols, also a very evocative livery across the 117 car. Didn't have it his own way in this qualifying session, it has to be said. Part of it due to traffic, but wasn't quite there where we would expect him. But it's good to see him back on the Ferrari Challenge entry list and the grid. And there is the woman who showed the way around this circuit. Quickest time in Coppa Shell all week, Manuela Gostner.
Mix of highs and lows for the Gostner family, of course, with Thomas's car not able to complete the qualifying session. Doubtless that the MP Racing team will be working hard on that car and will get him back out for the race, albeit it'll be a much further back start than he would have liked. Of course, we've got the Coppa Shell AM qualifying to come next, where I'd like to predict that Paolo Scudieri will have found some 100ths and even maybe some tenths, buoyed by the confidence of taking his victory yesterday, which was really, really good to see, and he really enjoyed that that victory. We're looking at the 182 car of Willem van der Worm, as Nico mentioned earlier on in our qualifying program. Completely different colour scheme for Willem van der Worm. He's very much the red colours that we were used to with Willem. Now he goes for blue and yellow, and Manuela Gostner, well, she is P1. Well done, and he's with Ludovica right now.
Manuela, congratulations for the result. You are so competitive in this weekend. Yesterday you started from the second position on the grid, and today you took the pole. Can you tell us more about your qualification?
Well, actually, it was quite a difficult qualification today. The track changed quite a bit with the temperatures and everything, so it was not so easy. And I was not at all expecting this result, I have to say. But actually, maybe something I did in the right way, because I took the pole position, so super happy to start in the first row.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Ludovica. Thank you.
So well done to
Grazie.
Manuela Gostner, and well done to Ludovica for getting hold of Manuela, who really rather underplayed her pole position effort, if I'm honest with you, Nico. I kind of don't know what I did, but it worked. Well done to you, Manuela.
as modest as you are. And there, as you can see, green light at the right-hand side of your picture means pit lane is open. And if you're wondering why they're showing the green light to us and not to the cars who are fighting out of pit lane, there is also a traffic light in the other direction, which the drivers can see. And this is just for our information and benefit. And here we can see the cars fighting out of pit lane. It's Luis Perez-Goya who we are watching as he enters the track proper. And there is the car that I still think is Thomas Neubauer's car, which it absolutely isn't.
But it looks like it, to be fair to you.
It absolutely looks like it.
To be fair to you, it really does look like it. It is, of course, Roland Hertner, the Charles Pozzi GT Racing, but you know, very distinctive livery and one that we associate with that very talented driver that is not on the grid at the moment. Oh, and there you can see Christian Herdvipper and Axel Sardigan. No, it's von Skeltermaier, I beg your pardon, and Axel Sardigan having a discussion there. Axel will be a little bit disappointed, I think, with his qualifying, maybe. But we know he can put it right in the race. He's a racer.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, P2 is certainly nothing to frown upon, but it's the first point he didn't take that he could potentially have taken, though, but he will feel that. I think for him it's more the 6/10 that he didn't find against Manuela that may trouble him.
Okay.
But P2 is still a very respectable result, and he will feel like he can be P1 by the time they reach the first apex. That's certainly going to be his aspiration as we get into this warm-up phase of this second qualifying session. We do it all over again. It's 20 minutes. Everybody warms up their tires, probably on yesterday's rubber initially, and then we change to a very new, fresh, unboxed set of Pirelli P0s, and then the chase is going to be on. But as we saw just now, traffic, potentially a red flag, it can all throw things off your strategy, and that is the danger.
Spanners in the works, I think the phrase you're looking for, as we watch Luis Perez-Goya then, who of course has been a long-time campaigner in the Ferrari Challenge, primarily in North America, but good to see him in the European Challenge this year. Speaking of Louis at lunch yesterday, great to see him here. And there we can see the 103 car of Boris Gideon, who, what a race Boris had yesterday, what a qualifying Boris had yesterday for Auto Haus Ulrich. And we'll see what he can do in this qualifying session today. And yeah, we've got pretty much all the cars bar 3 that are out there on track. So it is short and sharp, isn't it, Nico? And as you were suggesting, you know, it only takes one car going off the track, a localized yellow or a red flag, and all of a sudden those, you know, the time can soon get away from you. Drivers need to be on it really, and if they are doing an installation on yesterday's rubber, got to time it to absolute perfection to come in and put the new rubber on as well and go out and set what will be a time for them. Now, of course, with the split of Shell and Shell AM drivers, and it's the AM drivers that we're watching right now, they will line up in category order, and the fastest, so there will be an effective pole position. In the past, we've seen the drivers mixed, haven't we? The Shell and Shell AM drivers, whereas that is absolutely not the case. The fastest Shell AM driver will start at the front of the pack of the Shell AM drivers.
Yeah, but behind the last of the Shell drivers, barring any penalties, exactly. And there is Paolo Scudieri, yesterday's race winner.
Yes. Well, what I was saying about whether it will have given him renewed vigor and confidence, I would suggest at the moment he's looking pretty favourable. Now, okay, Sector 1 is painted purple currently. We are in the early stages of this qualifying session, so don't read too much necessarily into the times that will be set in the first half of this qualifying. It's more, I would have suggested, the times that we will see in the second part of this qualifying session. That, though, we want to take nothing away from Paolo Scudieri, who was quicker than anyone through Sector 1 as we split the screen, so you can see him working hard at the car. He's got another car ahead of him, which is the car of Mutlu Tazev. As Boris Gideon goes quickest, Henrik Kamstrup second fastest, Paolo Scudieri then banking a P3 at the moment.
Absolutely, as he takes on the second next lap. Boris Gideon, meanwhile, has put it on provisional pole. Early goings, as we said, but his next time around, first sector already 2.7 seconds quicker. So just as an indication that we've not reached the absolute maximum in terms of lap times yet. Yesterday we were in the 137s for pole position. We're now in the 143. So, you know,
there's time to come, isn't there? Well, and that time is being amply illustrated there by Boris Gideon, who's gone faster through Sector 1 and Sector 2 than even his previous best time. And he gives us a 1:40.079. And you're talking about a huge margin there, Nico, of very nearly 4 seconds that he has found. And we expect Boris Gideon to go even quicker still. So it is Gideon from Kamstrup, from Scudieri, from Hürtner at the moment.
Definitely, as we see lots of good personal bests, overall bests all across our timing screen, as everybody tries and find their rhythm and the car's rhythm, and then we expect the drivers in about 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes to come in. This shorter format of the qualifying with only 20 minutes means that that first stint that the drivers like to do is certainly abbreviated and not as extensive as it sometimes is. It also means that we get a lot of track action early on. The only 2 drivers currently not out there are Hamstring, we've already seen him, Josef Schumacher, the only driver that we haven't seen out there yet. Had a good race yesterday, Josef did, but thus far we haven't seen him out there. Roland Hürtner with a good first sector, but Boris Gideon again with a purple one. The differences to the previous lap are getting smaller, understandably, but it's still purple. That means it's the best overall, and cumulatively, it's still half a second.
Yes, 4.5 tenths up, isn't it? So just kicked up a little bit of dust then as he ran the near side rear wheel into the gravel. He'll certainly not do that on this turn number 14. The trajectory is absolutely perfect. Tries to get a slingshot out. Runs 2 wheels over the white line. 2 is allowed, 4 is not, and that's going to be a pretty perfect lap from Boris Gideon. And it's a 1:39.248. Remind me, what was the pole time yesterday in Coppa Shell AM yesterday?
1:37.7. So it's still a second and a half or so off. As we see the Roland Hürtner car currently P2, not going to trouble the pole time with this lap. Maybe a personal improvement, not an improvement. That way.
Around and around we go with Louis Perescoia.
Fortunately kept it, didn't keep it out of the gravel bed, but got it back out of the gravel bed, and that
isn't always the case.
No, and with 12 minutes remaining, that's good news for pretty much everybody, because it avoids a red flag. As we can see, the first cars coming back into pit lane. Paolo Scudieri, yesterday's winner, is one of those, and
bit of a sideways moment there for Stefano Morazzi, but the Rosso Corsa racer held on to it and has kept his foot in, as you can see, Nico. Absolutely firmly planted on the loud pedal insofar as it's almost being pushed through the floor as he gives it everything that he possibly can.
Yeah, had a purple first sector, very good. The second, as we just witnessed, not quite as perfect, and I think it's safe to say that we will see that based on the timing screen, although I've been wrong about that assumption. I don't think I am in this case. Half a second down after the second sector. And certainly that excursion was reason for that. I understand we got more insights into what happens in the paddock coming up.
Yes, Ludovica is with the Autohaus Ulrich pit box, I understand, which of course is the pit box for Boris Gideon.
Yes, I'm here with Luca Corradini to find out more about the Boris Gideon qualification. Luca, yesterday you, with Boris and the team, took the pole. What is the strategy for today?
Yes, yesterday is a very good qualification. You take a pole position with Boris, second with Mr. Isozaki. Today the same story, the strategy is the same, only the difference start with the old tires for race of yesterday. After, in this moment, put the new tires, let's see.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Well done, well done. So that proves the point, Nico, that the times that we're seeing of 1:39.248 from Boris at the moment are on yesterday's tyres. So we're going to see improvements when he does come in, but 10 minutes, there's sufficient time for him to come in, put a new set of rubber on and go out again.
Yeah, barely, you want to say. There is Motohiko Isozaki, who had a brilliant qualifying, led it for, I want to say, 19.5 minutes of the 20 minutes, and then was ousted by Boris Gideon at the very end. Had a less perfect race yesterday, had a coming together, which was bad enough, and then on trying to rejoin, collided with Henrik Kamstrup, and that royally destroyed the race. And he is sporting a new livery for exactly that reason.
I spoke to Motohiko at the end of the race yesterday, and you know, as is the gentleman nature of so many of our Coppa Shell AM drivers, he held his hands up and said, "You know what? That was my mistake, Dave." Huge respect to him, and actually he's just delivered the fastest lap with a 1:38.649. So, as you quite rightly say, Motohiko is effectively in a T car today because the extent of the damage that he inflicted upon his car yesterday such that he's using a spare car, which of course is allowed, assuming all the other teams allow it. That's, you know, one of the very fair rules that we have in the Ferrari Challenge. And Henrik Kamstrup looking good now with personal bests in Sector 1 and Sector 2, and he's hoping to improve upon his P6 position at the moment. Let's see if he can do that. Target time 1:38.649, and he does improve by 2 places, Nico, and goes up to P4. So effectively that would be, if everything stopped now, it would be a second row start for him.
Absolutely. Isozaki, meanwhile, is going quick again. Purple first sector, and we can see some of the drivers who came in, including Boris Gideon, who's now residing in P2, coming back out of the pit lane, presumably with a new set of Rally P0 tires. There is our provisional pole setter, and he is still going quick. Second sector, not quicker than previously, but still purple overall, and that means he's now climbing a little, and then there is that drop, that long left-hander, which takes forever, and unfortunately includes some traffic on this.
And that has right royally mucked up that lap, hasn't it? And he decides to come into the pit lane, which lends me to believe that Motohiko Isozaki was not on optimum tires.
No, and that would make his previous lap even more impressive. Now, with just under 8 minutes remaining, that means the team has to be very quick and putting the new set on. It's still enough time, but as we've seen before, traffic, even something more dramatic like a red flag can really, really upset your strategy there. There is the Charles Pozzi GT racing car.
Roland Hurtner's new rubber going on. And expect to see Roland back out there. Here's Kirk Beerbold for Kessel Racing with personal bests through Sector 1 and Sector 2. He's been quietly going about his business, Nico, and almost under the radar has put it P3, and this could be an improvement from Kirk as well. So as he heads to break the timing beam now, it was a P3, and has he improved it? Indeed he has, because that final sector he nailed perfectly, and he's delivered a 1:38.388, 2/10 quicker than Motohiko Isozaki.
Well done and well picked up by our team in the OB van. Saw it coming, and Kirk Beerbold takes P1 provisionally. And with 6 minutes 51 seconds, there is Motohiko Isozaki.
He's out of the car.
He doesn't look like he's going to respond. As we get a replay of a spinner.
Is that Paolo? I think that's Paolo.
That is Paolo Scudieri. Yeah, that is Paolo Scudieri. And, from hero to not quite hero in that moment. Unfortunately, didn't get it beached in the gravel, and that means the qualifying session can continue as planned. A little bit of a moment, but certainly not advantageous for him. There he comes into shot, and is that Boris Gideon just ahead of him? I think it is, so that would make it the 2 protagonists of yesterday.
I don't think it is. I think it's Josef Schumacher.
You are absolutely right. There is, and he did indicate, but good thing he didn't go for that gap. Because that would have been an issue. Josef Schumacher ahead of him. Paolo Scudieri indicating or having his warning lights on. Probably a little bit unhappy about the way that first turn went, but with 5.5 minutes remaining, there's still time to do something about it. Boris Gideon, meanwhile, has put it underneath the 138 barrier, 137.976, and that automatically gives him provisional pole for the time being.
So we're right on board with Paolo Scudieri now, who had that off a few moments ago. That might have just dented his confidence a little bit, because it's a real You know, you can see him really fighting with the steering wheel to control the car. He's got it all back together again now. He's currently down there in P7. You can see the tick on the left-hand side of your screen, which is the order of where our drivers are currently. And there is the 103 car of Boris Gideon, 137.976, who's had a track limit infringement in Sector 1, Nico. So that may, well, that will certainly hamper this lap as we go back into the pit lane once again with Ludovica.
Yes, Dave, I will show you an important date because the three first position of today are the similar of the three first position about yesterday. So the pole now is fighting by Motoiko, Boris Gideon, and Kirk Berwald. So the drivers are very competitive and they are very, very more confident with the car and the circuit.
Thank you so much for analysing the data and bringing us that info. Absolutely, that pole is being contested by Boris Gideon, Kirk Berwald and Motohiko Isasaki at the moment, but Henrik Kamstrup would like to join that three-way fight for P1, and with an awesome Sector 1, a reasonable Sector 2. What's Sector 3 going to do? Let's take a look as Henrik Kamstrup breaks the timing beam and does not improve, and it was a long way down through Sector 3, which really gnawed it for him.
Yeah, I think there was some traffic in Sector 2, which he had to navigate, and that cost him the vast majority of the time that he lost. Boris Gideon going again, very, very good first sector. Also Roland Hürtner, who was P2 for the majority of the qualifying session. It was P2 in the race yesterday. Currently only P6, he's going again, and there we pick him up as he's in that second sector and about 15 seconds away from breaking the timing beam. That will give us an update on where he is in terms of trajectory, fighting with the steering wheel through the turns. Followed closely by Pino Frescaro, but it's Roland Hürtner who is now taking the timing beam, and he also lost quite a bit of time in that second sector. The Pirelli P0s are very, very good, and they have a very good longevity, but that very short peak optimum window, which allows you that extra few 100ths of a second.
Yes.
You can already see in qualifying session that after a few laps, that window gets smaller and smaller.
Of course, of course. And it's knowing when that sweet spot is, and also using that sweet spot when you've got the sweet, sweet smile of clear tarmac ahead of you. That's what you need to make it work. And Boris Gideon, as you can see, he's going to park the car now with 2.5 minutes remaining. He comes into the pit lane with a 137.976, which is 4/10 ahead of anyone else. He will feel that he has done enough, and I think it's a reasonable confidence to have.
The sweet smile of clear tarmac coming to a construction company near you, and a new hit song. I think I like that. I like the sound of that. Roland Hürtner going again, good first sector. Paolo Scudieri also a good first sector. Obviously he in P8 cannot be satisfied with where he is right now. Josef Schumacher also brilliant first sector, just 5/100ths of a second or 6/100ths of a second off the pole time after one sector. But we follow Paolo Scudieri, still got his indicators flashing. I probably forgot that, or he still has some message he wants to send us in a bottle.
Get out of the way is the message that he's sending to everybody else that's out there on the track, as he does personal sector best times in Sector 1 and Sector 2. And the final sector now where Paolo is building speed, running downhill, then a huge, huge heavy braking zone, which is turn number 14. Kisses the apex on the inside, runs a little bit wide towards the outside, heads towards breaking the timing beam, the target at 137.9. And Paolo Scudieri does move up one place, Nico, with a 140.195. That now gives him P8, which would be a 4th row start. However, others are improving as well, including Roland Hürtner and Stefano Morazzi and Henrik Kamstrup. So all of Paolo Scudieri's efforts have been vaulted by other people's efforts that are out there on track as well. Boris Gideon confident that he's not going to be beaten. He's parked the car, and we have got 40 seconds left. Now, when you cross the timing line, as long as you cross it with a second remaining, you can do another lap. So the session is far from over when the when the checkered flag is out, if you're on a lap, your lap can count. This is Josef Schumacher, who you were saying was doing very, very well in terms of sector times.
Yeah, he was, and his lap time would have put him into P6. However, he had a track limit infringement on the previous lap, so the lap time didn't count. First sector, once again, decent. Not as good as the previous one, but still very much on trajectory for an improvement. Let's see how he does in the second sector. He lost too much time there. He's still, I mean, he's still on par to improve from P12, but nowhere near as close as he was the previous time. But this is last chance saloon, so whatever he does here, that improvement will count, and nothing after that will matter. Well, the race will, but he will go for that timing line. It's a 1:37.976. That's out of reach. But where will he end up after the end of this lap? It's P9.
He's improved 3 places, Nico. So well done to Josef Schumacher. Then for Eberlein Automotive, Paolo Scudieri crosses the timing line now. Boris Gideon, Kirk Beervold, Motohiko Isasaki. I can't see. There is Motohiko Isasaki, and in the backdrop you can see Boris Gideon. So I don't think the top 3 times are going to be, there's no one out there that's setting a time that will be in any way troubling to those at the top. So looks to me like it's going to be Boris Gideon then pole position, that's for sure. So drivers jumping out of the cars. There's Louis, and listening to engineers. So that Coppa Shell done and dusted for our AM drivers, their qualifying session. And the drivers now all will take a look and study the data from their qualifying session to ascertain where and what they can do to improve still further. Jumping out of the car there is Motohiko Isasaki. It's going to be a second row start for Motohiko, going from P3. And there is Kirk Beervold.
Yeah, but I thought you said someone got a better time. No, just what? You went
Just listening in to conversations going on there as well. Always interesting to ascertain what you can hear. Here's confirmation then of where we're at. Boris Gideon, Kirk Beervold, Motohiko Isasaki. Ahead of Roland Hurtner, Stefano Marazzi, Henrik Kamstrup, Paolo Scudieri, Tommy Lindroth, Josef Schumacher, Pino Frascaro. Then it's Mutlu Tasev and Louis Perescoia. That's the way it looks then in terms of our qualifying for Coppa Shell AM. So it gives us the grid for the Coppa Shell AM drivers for their race 2 of this weekend to come this afternoon. Circuit Ricardo Tormo, it will be the venue for the second race in Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell. Please make sure you join us for that. From qualifying for now, from all of us, thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.